It's not often that I get to test drive new old stock. And by new old stock, I mean the previous generation car after which the new generation car has already been announced, unveiled with specifications and even pricing information sometimes. Although, as I say that, I realize that in the last 2 or 3 years, I've done that far more often than at any other point in my career. But this is certainly the first time that I get to drive a car that is so old. This is a 2020 Toyota 86, and as we know, the X-Scion FRS as well as the Subaru BRZ were introduced way back in 2012, so that's kind of old. And the other thing is to test drive new old stock that was, at one or more points in its career, heavily criticized. 2020 Toyota 86. Old, yes. I mean, as you see it, this is about 99% exactly what you would have seen way back in 2012 when the car first hit the road. But that's not, you can't criticize that really. The point of contention for these cars, the BRZ, XFRS, 86, has always been power. But it was never really an issue because this car was designed to be exploited, enjoyed to its maximum potential at nearly all occasion. This is a momentum car like the Mazda MX-5. It's got just enough power to get you into trouble, but it's so easily controllable that you'll get out of trouble. That's what kind of separates the drivers from the non-drivers. It's not speed, it's maintaining speed. I think that makes sense. So when the opportunity to test drive a 2020 Toyota 86 arose, I could not pass it up. Although I've driven this car many times over the last 9 or 10 calendar years, I've always enjoyed it to the full extent. I mean, this is kind of a farewell tour, if you will. So we'll go through quickly the usual walk around, and then we'll take it on the road because that's where this car absolutely and truly shines. I suppose we can start with styling. I mean, essentially there's nothing visually wrong with this car. It's a classic 2+2 rear-wheel drive sporty coupe with the right proportions. It's low, it's squat, it's wide. Without a doubt, in my mind, the best part is the front, where you can see how raked the A-pillars are, the low, long, flat bonnet. I mean, look, it just looks fabulous. It's a fairly common car, so it doesn't stand out anymore, but it's still great looking. I mean, it has aged gracefully over the last 9 years now since its introduction. And it will continue to do exactly that as the years roll by. All right, so for pricing, $27,060 in the US for the base car. The equivalent is $30,150 in Canada. At the other end of the spectrum, well, essentially the next trim, is the GT, and with the 6-speed manual transmission retails for $30,190 in the US, and in Canada, $34,450. And that is essentially the car you're looking at right here. Base features in the regular, if you will, Toyota 86. Well, you get a 7-inch touchscreen, which has evolved many times over all these years. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and a horrible backup camera. I'll show that to you in a few moments. The GT, though, for $4,000 and change in Canada is the one to consider. You get a 4.2-inch digital instrument readout in the center of the cluster, dual zone air conditioning, a nice leather and suede seats, these 18-inch TRD wheels, these cool little LED fogs, and most importantly, plus 5 horsepower, right, is this rear spoiler, which is just subtle yet visible enough to heighten everything about the car. All right, so do we want to, I mean, you've seen the trunk before and I've probably showed it in the past, but look, this is functional under 200 liters, done. All right, so getting on board, these are your leather and suede seats, which are superb. I mean, the bolsters are huge and very firm, so they hold you in place, because this car just doesn't want to go in a straight line as much as possible. Fit finish, typical Toyota / Subaru, where some things are a little bit off, but mostly everything is in exact same spot, or exact right spot. There's the back seat, and is about as claustrophobic as this shot kind of shows off. Let's slide on board. Keep the door open because it's starting to get warm. Oh, the wind had different ideas. So start it up. So there's that 4.2 inch readout. You can see kind of the display graphics, whatever, kind of oldish, if you will, but look, oh, really? All right, well, this is a good time to show off the 7-inch display, which is, it looks like it's aftermarket, and then essentially it is, but still works as long as you're patient with the navigation and some of the buttons, but it works out fine, which we'll do this now. So I'm gonna put it into reverse. Yeah, I don't know how bad, oh, there we go, that's a little bit better. The visibility is horrible, the lines, if there's any amount of sunlight, anyway, it's terrible, but you know, it's a band-aid solution. Typical HVAC toggle switches are always very cool. Your ESP modes, heated seats. Sight lines are actually pretty good in here because of the A-pillars being so thin, and you do sit extremely low in here. But that's not the important stuff. The important stuff is right here. Just so you know, reverse. You know, sometimes you look for a video on the interwebs to find out how it works. I mean, I'm kind of rambling now because there's nothing else to say, and I feel like I should give you more, so I guess it's time to go for a drive. Driving a Toyota 86 is it's a fabulous experience in the sense that you feel very intimately connected with, well, the thing you're attempting to control. There's an honesty in how the clutch reacts, how the shifter goes into gear, how, you know, steering response, and the way the chassis handles all the weight transfers and well, train tracks, as I'm about to go over. And clearly it's not the most refined thing, but that's not the point of this car, and that's what I love, or one of the many, many things I love about it. It's so true to itself. It's not attempting to convince you that it is a high-performance supercar, that it'll pull massive G's, you know, going around the bend or a track or whatever. It's just driving in a non-diluted form, and you have to love this car for it. I mean, the manual transmission is obviously part and parcel to the entire experience. I mean, the clutch and the shifter are essentially switches where it's on, off, on, off. And, well, you have to be mindful of that because the friction point comes quickly, and, you know, you got to synchronize your motions almost to perfection. Otherwise, you'll always end up, you know, chugging along, if you will, like an amateur, which I've done way more often than I want to admit while driving this car. But it's something you get used to, obviously. The point of contention, the issue going up, here we go, has always been power. But it's not that it's lacking power. It's just that the chassis and the brakes and the steering and the amount of grip available far exceed the amount of power generated by the 2-liter. But that's purposefully done. That's the way it is. The Boxer 4-cylinder 2-liter engine, horizontally opposed, right? Changed my mind. Produces 205 horsepower at 7,000 RPM and 156 pound-feet of torque around 6,500 RPM. So if you're the type of person that wants, you know, instant power and lots of torque, this isn't the one. The next one, though, yes. I'll talk more about that in a few moments. This car is not fast by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, you're looking at, oh, that was a lot rougher than I thought. But, you know, it's a robust car. Apologies. What was I saying? Yeah, 7.3 seconds, I think, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour. So you're not going to win any drag race. But again, that's not the point of this car. The point of this car is just to wring it out, work on your heel toe, and enjoy it. In fact, if you're going to if you're exploring the idea of tracking a car, or you want to do some time attacks or slalom or whatever, there are no other cars that match this and the Mazda MX-5, where you can actually enjoy putting your foot in all the way and holding it there for a little while. And this is what I mean by exploiting the car, because it'll follow you until you do something a little bit exaggerated, you know, like one of these. And that's one of the beauties. That's one of the best things about this car. The list is so long. It does want to rotate at every absolute opportunity. And if you're not used to that snappy kind of chassis behavior, you want to keep your stability control completely on, because you will end up sideways almost all the time. And the crazy thing is that this car with the 18s doesn't have the crappy old, very limited grip Michelin Primacy tires. It has Pilot Sport 4S's, but even so, with the limited slip differential, the car just wants to bring you around and show you a good time all the time. Yeah, like I said, you got to ring it out, but once you get going, it feels so nice. I mean, generally speaking, the car is very neutral until you're in opposite lock. There's obviously way too much traffic, and I don't want to be the guy that's going to overdo it, but the thing with this car is that, like I said, you develop an intimate and direct, unfiltered relationship, and it becomes very, very addictive. Thankfully, it's really easy on fuel. I mean, I'm averaging 8.2 liters per 100 kilometers, and I haven't been entirely nice to it. What more can I say about this car? The steering is just always on, but in a friendly kind of way. It doesn't want to tell you what to do. It just obeys your every command. And I love the brake pedal feel. It's nice, firm, and strong. This car weighs only 1,270 kilos, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that's the segue into the next generation Toyota 86 and Subaru BRZ, as it weighs the exact same amount as this generation car, but it has 228 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque at much lower RPM. So it's going to be an even bigger blast to drive. It'll still be a momentum car. You'll just build that momentum a little bit faster than you did in this car. Oh, so fantastic, so addictive, so fun. I mean, what I just did, the stupid little moves, just these flicks of the steering wheel, you can't do that in a Mustang, right? And in a number of other rear-wheel drive, medium to high-powered cars, not that there are that many of them with a manual transmission anyhow. I'm extremely excited about the next generation Toyota 86. But if you're in the market for one of these, you will not go wrong. You'll lose in a drag race to a new generation Toyota 86, but again, is that really the point? If you are skilled enough on a track, that's where it really matters. And this car, I'm sure, will go toe-to-toe with the brand new one with very little effort.